portfolio that is right for you at 30 is the wrong portfolio at 45. Most people build one portfolio and freeze it. That is not discipline. That is drift. In a few minutes, I am going to show you exactly what happens to a portfolio that is never rebalanced over 10 years. The number will surprise you. 4 life stages, the right asset allocation for each. Real ETF names for both US and European investors. All ETF names mentioned are examples only, not recommendations. Always check current fees, structure, and your own tax situation before buying anything. Mike Petrie covers the philosophy on Nobody Told Mike. Here we break down the numbers. The right portfolio is not about picking the best ETFs. It is about matching the right asset allocation to the right stage of your financial life and rebalancing portfolio consistently as that stage changes. There are 4 stages. Each one has a different target allocation, a different set of ETF tools, and a different priority. Growth, transition, pre-income, income. As the stages unfold, the ETF types will be introduced as they become relevant. Not all up front, but exactly when they appear in the portfolio for the first time. Stage 1, accumulation, under 50,000 euros, the earliest stage. Time horizon is long, 20, 30, 40 years. The priority is one thing, maximum growth. Nothing else matters as much. At this stage, a monthly contribution of 300 euros changes a 10,000 euro portfolio by 3% immediately. Your contribution rate has more impact on outcomes than your asset allocation. The best thing you can do is invest consistently, stay in equities, and not panic. The 2 ETF types for stage 1. First, a broad global market ETF. One fund that owns thousands of companies across dozens of countries, the entire global economy in a single purchase. US examples, VT European UCITS examples, VWCE, the Vanguard FTSE All-World UCITS ETF, IWDA, the iShares Core MSCI World UCITS ETF. Second, a bond ETF, a small allocation for stability, not essential at stage 1 but builds the habit of a balanced structure. US examples, BND, AGG, European UCITS examples, VAGP, the Vanguard Global Aggregate, Bond UCITS ETF, IEAG, the iShares Core, Global Aggregate Bond UCITS ETF. Target allocation for stage 1, 85% equities, 15% bonds. Example structure, 85% VWCE or IWDA, 15% VAGP. Single fund alternative for simplicity, VWCE alone. 3,500 companies, the entire world self-rebalancing. 0 maintenance required. Mike's stage 1 anchor. At the accumulation stage, a single global ETF is not a beginner move. It is the correct move. The complexity comes later, and only when the portfolio is large enough to justify it. Stage 2, growth to transition, 50,000 euros to 250,000 euros. The portfolio is now large enough to feel. A 30% crash on 150,000 euros is 45,000 euros gone overnight. That changes investor behavior, and the portfolio should change too. 2 things happen at stage 2. First, a growth ETF enters, a more concentrated technology-heavy fund with higher return potential and higher short-term volatility. This is the asset allocation moment where the investor accepts more complexity in exchange for more growth potential. US examples, QQQ, the Invesco NASDAQ 100 ETF, European UCITS examples, CNDX, the iShares NASDAQ 100 UCITS ETF, EQQQ, the Invesco EQQQ NASDAQ 100 UCITS ETF. Second, a dividend ETF enters for the first time. Small allocation, Engine 2 beginning to idle. US examples, SCHD, VYM, European UCITS, examples VHYD, the Vanguard FTSE All-World High Dividend Yield, UCITS ETF. Target allocation for stage 2, 70% equities, 15% dividend income, 15% bonds. Example structure, 45% VWCE or IWDA, 25% CNDX, 15% VHYD, 15% VAGP. Mike's Stage 2 anchor. This is where most investors make their first rebalancing portfolio mistake. The growth ETF runs hard for 2 or 3 years. The allocation drifts to 80 or 85% equities without a single conscious decision, and the investor suddenly holds an aggressive portfolio they never chose. Stage 3, pre-income, 250,000 euros to 1 million euros. This is Mike Petrie's current stage, covered in depth in episode 3 of What NTM Told Us, the real portfolio behind Nobody Told Mike. At stage 3, the target is visible, 1 million euros, the 4% rule, 40,000 euros per year in passive income. Capital preservation now competes with growth for the first time. An S&P 500 ETF enters the portfolio, a deliberate US overweight on top of the global ETF, not an accident of overlap. US examples, VOOSPY IVV, European UCITS examples, VUSA, the Vanguard S&P 500 UCITS ETF, CSPX, the iShares Core S and P500 UCITS ETF. Mike's actual allocation, example only, 50% growth ETFs, CNDX and similar UCITS growth funds, 20% S and P500 ETF, VUSA or CSPX, intentional US overweight, 10% dividend ETF, VHYD, 10% individual dividend stocks, 10% bond, ETF, VAGP. Mike's Stage 3 anchor. The growth ETF still dominates because the target has not been reached. But the asset allocation is already being prepared for what comes next. Every rebalancing event at Stage 3 shifts slightly more weight toward dividend income and bonds. If the stage framework is making sense, hit like. It helps more investors find exactly this kind of asset allocation breakdown. Stage 4. Income, 1 million euros plus. The destination. The 4% rule is active, 40,000 euros per year in passive income. Principal untouched, income indefinite. At Stage 4, the portfolio inverts. Growth is no longer the priority. Income and capital preservation are. Engine 1 idles. Engine 2 takes over completely. A European market ETF enters for regional income diversification, relevant for European investors building a dividend-weighted portfolio. European UCITS examples, IMEU, the iShares Core, MSCI Europe, UCIT SETF, MEUD, the Amundi MSCI Europe, UCITS ETF. Target allocation for Stage 4, 40% dividend income, 30% bonds, 20% global market, 10% growth. Example structure, 40% VHYD and individual dividend stocks, 30% VAGP and IEAG, 20% VWCE, 10% CNDX, a reduced but maintained growth position. Mike's Stage 4 anchor. The portfolio at this stage is not designed to grow. It is designed to replace a salary, and that changes every allocation decision. Growth becomes secondary. Yield becomes the measure of success. The entire structure of the portfolio exists to produce income, not accumulate it. Building the right portfolio is only half the equation. Staying in it is the other half. Here's the number I promised at the start. A 60-40 portfolio, 60% equities, 40% bonds, left without rebalancing for 10 years during a bull market becomes approximately an 80-20 portfolio. The investor thinks they hold a moderate, balanced allocation. They actually hold an aggressive one, with a risk profile they never consciously chose and may not survive a crash in. That is the cost of not rebalancing portfolio allocations. Not fees, not bad ETF selection. Just drift, happening silently, year after year. There are 3 rebalancing methods. Each serves a different stage. Method 1, annual rebalancing. Once per year, same date every year, review every allocation. Sell what has grown beyond target. Buy what has fallen below. Reset. Leave for 12 months. Simple, low cost, effective for every stage. Method 2. Threshold rebalancing. Rebalance whenever any allocation drifts more than 5% from its target. Growth ETF at 50% target drifts to 57%. Rebalance. More responsive than annual. Better for stage 3 and stage 4, where drift has larger financial consequences. Method 3. Contribution-based rebalancing. The most tax-efficient method. Instead of selling overweight positions and triggering taxable events, direct new monthly contributions entirely toward the underweight allocation until it returns to target. No selling, no tax event. The portfolio self-corrects through new money. Best for stage 1 and stage 2 investors still making regular contributions. 4 stages, 6 ETF types, introduced as they became relevant. 3 rebalancing methods. The best ETFs for long-term investing are not the ones with the highest historical return in isolation. They are the ones matched to the right stage of your financial life, held in the right allocation, rebalanced on a consistent schedule as that stage evolves. Mike Petrie is in stage 3 on NobodyToldMike. His portfolio, 50% growth ETFs, 20% S&P 500, 10% dividend ETFs, 10% individual stocks, 10% bonds, is the right portfolio for exactly where he is. Not where he started, not where he is going, where he is now. In 5 or 10 years, that portfolio will look different. Not because he changed his philosophy, but because the stage changed, and the rebalancing will have done its job silently, year after year. Here is the question for the comments. Which stage are you in right now? And does your current portfolio actually match it? Be honest. If this breakdown clicked for you, subscribe here for more NTM explainers, and watch Mike explain his full portfolio himself. Nobody Told Mike, Episode 3, link below.